All right, so the one I want to go over is number 4. This is the function, and we're looking on the interval -6 to 0. So it's, does it satisfy the hypotheses for mean value theorem, yes or no? And then if yes, do the problem. If no, explain why not. And so mean value theorem means the function needs to be continuous and differentiable. So this is going to be a no. And so the reason why is it is not differentiable at x equals -3 due to a sharp edge. And this problem didn't go poorly overall. Most people wrote, a sharp edge. The thing is, you have to mention the vocabulary word differentiable. That's the crux of it, is that the function is not differentiable, and you have to mention where. So a lot of people left out this x value. The reason that's so important is because -3 is on this interval, and so that sharp edge is on the interval, and that's why it's a problem. If the interval was somewhere else that didn't include -3, then the answer would actually be yes. So that's why this is so important. And so if you left that out, I only took off half a point, but I just wanted to make sure I went over that. You need to mention not differentiable, because that's the vocabulary that we're talking about, and where the sharp edge happens. But I will go over a few more for you guys. So is there something that you want me to go over for you? All right, number 10. All right, so we are fencing in a pasture next to a barn. And so we only need 3 sides of fencing. And what we want to maximize is this area. So area is x times y. And the problem is that there are 2 variables there. So I need to go back to the problem. You have 500 feet of fencing. So if I add up these 3 sides, which would be x plus 2y, that is going to be 500. And so I'm going to get x by itself. I'll subtract over the 2y. And this is going to get plugged in for x. So in place of x, I'm going to put all that. And the y is going to get distributed through there. And then the most important step, derivative equals 0. So this derivative is 500 minus 4y. We're going to set that equal to 0 because that's what will give us our critical points. And I'll subtract over the 500. Negatives are going to cancel, divide by 4, we're going to get 125. And so I'm going to plug that 125 back in for y right here. When you do that, you're going to get that x is 250. And for your area, you will multiply those together. Remember, it was x times y, length times width. And when you multiply those together, you are going to get 31,250. And the units are square feet since it was an area. All right, do you want to maybe pick 1 or 2 more?
Miss Cole, if no one else has any questions, can I ask a question off my test that I took?
Yeah, which one?
Number 5.
Okay, you're gonna have to hold on a second while I get that test. But you know what? That actually is the same question on both tests. Some of them were the same and some of them were different. And that one is actually the same. So that's the same as for everybody else too. So that's nice. All right, so number 5. So this is the function e to the x minus x plus 2. And we're going to find relative extrema. So whether it's a maximum or minimum is something we're going to have to figure out. So derivative equals 0. That'll give us our critical points. This derivative exponential is itself. Derivative of x would be 1. and we're gonna set that equal to 0. So I will add over the 1, and then to get rid of e, we're gonna do ln to both sides. So those cancel, we get x equals ln of 1, which is 0. So x is 0. So I'm gonna make a number line for my derivative. And I'm gonna pick a test number smaller than 0. So if we plug in -1, e to the -1, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but I know a negative exponent is gonna flip that. So e to the -1 would be 1 over e, and then we've got -1. E is about 2.7. If you want to just round that to 3, you don't have to figure out this answer exactly, just whether it's positive or negative. Pretend this is a third. It's close enough. A third -1 is going to be negative. So we get a negative result there. And if you pick a number bigger than 0, like we plug in 1, e to the first is e -1. So this is 2.7 minus 1. That's going to be a positive result. So we have a change negative to positive. So hey guys, what does that mean? Negative to positive means relative what? Good, nice job, minimum, perfect. All right, so relative minimum is, and I asked you for the whole point. So you're gonna have to plug 0 back into this function. So e to the 0 is 1, and then we've got plus 2. So if we plug in 0 to that, we're gonna get 3. So the relative minimum is 0, 3. And I can maybe do one more as long as it's like a sort of short one. Like I can't do all of question 7, but if you have, does anyone have one more that you wanna look at? All right, number 6. All right, now 6 says find, oh, that's so funny. 2 of you like messaged me privately and you both said 6, that's awesome. All right, so number 6 says find the absolute maximums and minimums. That is the candidates test. All right, so here is the function and on this interval. So we're gonna do derivative equals 0. This 2 is gonna come down. All the guts of the problem stays the same. It's gonna drop to a 1. You don't have to write that if you don't want to. And then we're gonna chain on the derivative of the inside stuff, which would be 2x plus 2. So if I divide over this 2, 0 divided by anything is just 0. I can pretty much ignore that. This, we can factor out an x. So we'll be left with x plus 2. And so out of that, we get 0 and we get -2. And then if we set this one equal to 0, that's going to give us -1. So when we go to test our candidates and you're plugging these back into the original function, your candidates are these endpoints and these critical points. Now I had some people just do every single number, like they skipped this and did -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like they just picked every single number. I only gave half credit for the problem if you did that because you skipped all the calculus. You just tested every number that there was. Also, what if the critical point was a half or 1 1/2? Then you would have missed it. So you can't skip this part, guys. All right, so these are going to get plugged into the original function here. So if you plug in -3, all right, that's going to be 9 minus 6 would be 3 squared is 9. This would be 4 minus 4, so 0. -1, that's going to be 1 minus 2, so -1 squared would be +1. 0 is going to just give you 0. And 4, that would be 16. Plus 8 would be 24 squared, which I'm just going to leave that as 24 squared. And then you have to write out your answer. So the absolute maximum is 24 squared at x equals 4. And the absolute minimum is 0 at x equals -2 and 0. So the absolute minimum, there is only one absolute minimum. It is 0. It just happened at 2 places. You don't have 2 minimums. You only have 1 minimum. It just happened at 2 locations.